All right, you guys, happy Tuesday. I think it's time not only for me to be departing in 4 episodes, but also for us to all wave goodbye to the Me Too movement. That's what it's looking like. A movement which began with Harvey Weinstein, massive case in the media at least, is very clearly on its way out. If you need any more proof that men are fighting back beyond Brian Friedman just dropping all of the receipts, well, take a look at this Shannon Sharpe case because men are fighting back publicly just as women are bringing about these allegations. So Shannon Sharpe, in case you're not familiar with him, is an ex-NFL player and podcaster, and he is being sued civilly for rape for a stunning $50 million. And guess what he's done? He just went ahead and instantly dropped personal text messages between him and his accuser, and he also shared her name. He un-Jane Doe'd her. Jane does her or something. This is happening at the very same day that Harvey Weinstein is moving to jury selection for his Me Too retrial. So let's talk about all of that. We're going to also get to Joe Rogan, who's under attack by the Zionist lobby. We're also going to get to Tucker Carlson, who's unearthing the 9/11 narrative. Lot going on. So let's jump right in. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, so we have to start with the obvious here. And the obvious is that Granddad is nasty. Who am I talking about? I'm speaking about Shannon Sharpe. Like I said, in case you're not familiar with him, he is first and foremost a literal grandfather. A young one, to be fair, but he's a grandfather. He is 56 years old, 56-year-old adult man with 3 children, with at least 2 different baby mamas. He's never been married. But he has sort of perpetually been in court dealing with various paternity suits and civil suits as it relates to the instability of his personal life, his personal relationships. Now, before his personal life took a front seat in the press, Shannon Sharpe was primarily known for what he did. He was an NFL all-time leader of receptions in the tight end position. I think his record has since been smashed, but he was drafted into the Hall of Fame in 2011. And that's what's earned him his current platform. He has a contract with ESPN as a sportscaster, as many of these people who leave the NFL do, right? They go either Fox Sports, ESPN Sports, and they provide commentary. Now, before we get further into his particular story here, I'm always very upfront with you guys about my biases. And I'm going to be honest with you, I do not like Shannon Sharpe. I do not think he's a good person. It's personal for me, okay? Last year being the toughest year on my family in our entire life. And as soon as I got fired from the Daily Wire, there were certain people who I had done nothing to, who I had never spoken about, who were just like dancing on what they perceived was my grave and just spreading lies about me. And Shannon Sharpe was one of these people who basically came out on his podcast right away and just said the Black community should not welcome her back. Like tried to paint me as this anti-Black person because I'm conservative and I ironically don't support movements like the Me Too movement. I don't know because I'm not a feminist, whatever. And he lied to his audiences and pretended I was trying to pivot to Black media because I had recently been invited before I was fired. I had done some segments. I was on the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God. And then Joe Budden invited me on his podcast. And that was it. That was it. But Shannon Sharpe did not miss an opportunity to essentially mock me when I was not in a great state. So here's what Shannon Sharpe had to say about me last year.
Sometimes, and it's happened before, people in our community forget that they're Black. And they try to appease a group of people that's probably never going to embrace them. And once they realize that, guess who's the first group to take them back?
I don't know her.
You know, I ain't say nobody's name, Amanda. You don't even know who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
How you know who I'm talking about? But we've seen this happen before. Rest his soul, O.J. Simpson. You know, he had the famous quote, "I'm O.J., I ain't Black." Even Michael Jackson went through what he went through, rest his soul.
Right.
Even Kanye had to be reminded. And now Miss Owens, who, I don't want no Black pilots, I don't want this, I don't want that. And now we can't keep off our Black media stations. When before she gave us her butt to kiss. Now, if I'm lying, if I'm speaking out of turn, people, y'all correct me. But y'all know I'm telling the truth. Now, you're talking about somebody that's always uplifted his community. And I was one of the first guys that had a viral moment with Cat Williams, and they couldn't wait. Excuse me. They couldn't wait to attack me. But Candace has given y'all her butt to kiss for 2 decades. And the moment, what they doing? They can't fire me. They can't fire me. The hell you say? Now look at her.
Now look at you, Mr. Shannon Sharpe. Ooh, that Candace karma comes quick, right? It really does. Like I said, did nothing to him. I have no idea what that was about, and nothing he said was true, obviously, and I haven't pivoted any of my conservative positions. But what transpired thereafter is he's kind of been in the public for the wrong reason. So in September of last year, he suffered a really rather embarrassing public moment. You guys probably remember it, where he accidentally went onto Instagram Live and broadcast himself in the middle of having some sexual relations with a woman. I kid you not. I don't know. He said he accidentally pressed the wrong button and the public was able to hear him with a woman. Here's just a couple of headlines about that. Forced to release a statement after ESPN star's Instagram shares a live sex tape. So that was not fun for him. And it really is stemming from that issue, at least that's his allegation, which the current issue arises. He's now in a very serious predicament because a young woman has come forward and she's alleging that she was raped and she was threatened by Shannon Sharpe during what she is describing as a quote unquote rocky consensual relationship. That term, a rocky consensual relationship. So her attorneys filed the lawsuit on Sunday in Nevada, and she listed herself, or attorneys listed her as Jane Doe. The lawsuit accuses Shannon Sharpe of using physical force on her and inflicting emotional distress on her. And I'll tell you what her story is, okay? Her story is that she was at the gym in Los Angeles back in 2023, pumping some iron. And lo and behold, here comes Shannon Sharpe. They met. Now, to be clear, she says she was just 20 years old, which I hate. I hate that a 56-year-old man is hitting on a 20-year-old at the gym. Again, not illegal, but yes, probably very immoral. I think we can all agree. Like going after young women who are younger than your daughters, it's pretty gross. He would have been 54 at the time. And from there on, the two of them start a relationship. A 2-year sexual relationship followed. Now, she's alleging that the rape element didn't occur until October of last year. And then again, so she got raped in October of 2024. And then again, allegedly this year in January. So obviously, for those of you that are following our Harvey series, that's immediately for me where I pause. Because what jumps out is the persistent question that I have in these circumstances, which is what would incentivize any young woman to go back and continue relations with an alleged rapist? Just, again, common sense. Not saying I have a degree in whatever degree you have supposed to have a degree in, but I am saying that sometimes it really just comes down to street smarts and common sense. Actually, most times it does. Anyways, the plaintiff is being represented by attorney Tony Busby. That name sounds familiar to you. He is involved in a lot of big named suits. He's made a name for himself. Most recently, Jay-Z came out and said this guy is a shakedown artist because he was essentially trying to loop Jay-Z in with the Diddy accusers. He's representing a litany of Diddy accusers, and he made an allegation that Jay-Z had done something to a 13-year-old. I never jumped on that. I looked into it, and it sounded to me like the case sounded fraudulent to me. I didn't buy it regarding Jay-Z. But he's been involved again in a lot of these cases. And one of the things that he has done is he's immediately released audio to the public of Shannon Sharpe threatening this young woman. So now she's 22, 23. And I'm going to allow you to take a listen. I'm going to allow you guys to be the judge and jury. And we're going to take a listen to the audio that Busby has decided to release. Take a listen.
Anything I say, you're just going to get mad at and you're just going to hang up on me. So I feel like...
I'm not going to hang up on you. Here's what it is.
What does that even mean?
Nothing yet. You want to be a to me now, so.
I don't want to be. Don't manipulate me.
Oh, Lord have mercy. If you say that one more time, I'm going to choke out of you when I see you. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to be choked.
Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter.
So you hear that and you don't have any context and you're going, okay, well, he definitely did just threaten to choke her, said he was going to choke her and that she would have no say in the matter. And she says, I don't want to be choked, right? Case closed. Or is it closed? Now, here's what I know. I know that in a typical scenario, if we went onto a time machine and traveled back to yesteryear, we would be very accustomed to these male defendants issuing a very buttoned up statement via their lawyers, denying their fault, maintaining their innocence, but also then moving on to sort of maintain their silence in an effort to allow the courts, some statement like, we look forward to our day in court to work through the details, right? But that's not what Shannon Sharpe and his legal team has opted to do. Like I said, in the wake of Brian Friedman just dropping the messages on lawsuitinfo.com, it seems like now men are fighting fire or perceived fire with fire. And instead, he posted a statement onto his Instagram, which was drafted by his lawyers, and he included text messages from this young woman. And I'm going to show you what that statement reads. Now, I'm not going to read every text message just because it's quite graphic, but these are text messages that are coming, that I feel comfortable reading, that are coming from this young woman. It's a statement by lawyer Lanny J. Davis, and the text message reads, I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you're bleeping. Okay. Okay, well, that immediately suddenly makes us go, what kind of a relationship was this? You see, it always offends our senses when we hear something like that and a man, and this is reminiscent to me of when I looked through the Romanian case regarding Andrew Tate, and when you get these out of context messages and you just go, this is awful and this is violent. But then you get another piece of the equation and now you have this woman saying, I want you to choke me, allegedly. These are messages are being alleged by his lawyer. I would assume the lawyer is not trying to be disbarred and he has confirmed that these are true messages. We can pull that back up. I'll continue reading the statement. And then suddenly you're going, okay, what kind of a relationship was this? Because she's describing it as consensual. And then he just names her. He's like, this woman's name is Gabriella Zuniga. This is a text message from her to Shannon Sharpe on October 7th, 2023. And then she says to him in a different text message, which is from January of this year, quote, I know you miss this big, juicy AAS. And she ends the message with $25,000 for each cheek. Very expensive cheeks. That's very expensive, very pricey. And then the lawyer continues in the statement. He writes, this lawsuit filed by Gabriella Zuniga, again, just unmasking her. He's like, forget the Jane Doe stuff. It was filed by this young woman and orchestrated by her attorney, Tony Busby, is a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars. It is filled with lies, distortions, and misrepresentations, and it will not succeed. In her effort to extract a large financial settlement, Ms. Zuniga presented Mr. Sharpe with a secretly recorded video of a consensual sexual encounter. We believe the video has been heavily edited and taken entirely out of context, crafted to falsely portray a consensual act as non-consensual. Ms. Zuniga has refused to provide a copy of the full unedited version of the recording to Mr. Sharpe's legal team. To set the record straight, we are releasing several of Ms. Zuniga's own explicit text messages to Mr. Sharpe that clearly indicate the nature of their relationship was consensual and sexual in nature, and in many cases initiated by her with specific and graphic requests. Contrary to the allegations she makes in her lawsuit, consensual sex continued until January 2nd, 2025, the day after she asked for $25,000 per cheek, as quoted above from her text message to Mr. Sharpe. There are other examples of texts from Ms. Zuniga. For example, this one I am not comfortable reading, but basically she's asking for him to put a baby to impregnate her, I guess is the most proper way that I could say that. And it just gets increasingly more graphic about how she wants to have a black baby, his black baby, to be sure. And so they're sharing this, and it, like I said, this is why you have to wait for the full context of, and it doesn't make like Shannon Sharpe an amazing person. I think he's gross. And I do not understand these sorts of relationships where people are craving violence. But you can imagine if you are with a girl, and I'm not saying this is the circumstance, we'd have to read through everything in its entirety. And she's got these like rape like violent turn-ons or kinks, and you guys are into this together. And then one day you're set up and she's recording everything and removing it from its context because she knows that the average member of the public is not going to read this as anything other than just violence. Well, then you have somebody who is indeed trying to con you and trying to extort you for money. We don't know, okay? What I can tell you is that in addition to this, Shannon himself posted a public video statement on X. So I'm going to allow you to listen to his response to her lawsuit.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Buzbee, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Buzbee targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media. The encounter in question took place during the day at her invitation, and now that appears to be a deliberate setup, coordinated by Gabby, also known as Carly on OnlyFans. Gabby and Tony Buzbee want $50 million. What they're getting is sued for defamation and trying to take me down. My career is all about real talk and honesty. I know my family and fans know exactly what this is about. And I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do. I love all you guys.
So here's my take. I think it is probably true that he was set up. I think it is probably true that this young woman wanted money. I think it's probably true that she intentionally engaged in this sort of, I don't even know what to call this kind of kink. Is it like bestiality? I don't know what people are into these days. Okay, I've aged out. I should really be referring to myself as a grandma. But I will also say this: these people put themselves into these scenarios, right? And again, over and over again, we are seeing Shannon Sharpe in these sorts of scenarios and continually having to make these sorts of statements so that he can ironically or unironically preserve his job and his reputation. How about just behaving well behind the scenes? How about not being a 56-year-old man that hits on people at the gym to avoid these sorts of circumstances? It's hard to feel bad for him, but of course, in the courtroom, it's not about who you feel bad for or whether or not you think he's a moral man. It is about whether or not you believe that Shannon Sharpe raped this young woman. And with what I've seen in terms of the text messages thus far, I do not believe that it is likely that this was a rape scenario. It does look like a shakedown to me. And that's difficult for me to say as someone who does not appreciate this man whatsoever. But it's now leading to a larger conversation, which is the way that he's fighting this, like fire with fire. I think what we are starting to see is the end of the Metoo movement. I believe that it is going to be a perfect circle. It is going to come back to Harvey Weinstein. They are now moving to pick jurors in his retrial after the appellate judges throughout his case, which I am very excited about because it is something that I've spent a lot of time looking into, and what happened to Harvey Weinstein was wrong. And now we have the Hollywood Reporter acknowledging that, it's looking like the public sentiment is shifting when it comes to the Me Too movement. They've written article after article. They've mentioned us. They've mentioned this show, just getting out to the people and saying, this woman that you thought was a victim, here's some further context that you never saw because the media was irresponsible and didn't show you the other side of the story, or didn't show you her text messages or show you her emails. And it starts out by saying, and we can pull up that article. It's written by Winston Cho. It says Joe Rogan was eating an elk steak while watching the first installment of Candace Owens' latest project aiming to exonerate Harvey Weinstein. When he came to the realization, he agreed with the far-right commentator. I can't believe I'm on Harvey Weinstein's side, he said on a March 22nd podcast. I thought he was guilty of like heinous crimes. And then you listen and you're like, wait, what? What is going on? The episode nodded to the seminal moments in the Me Too era since Weinstein's sex crimes conviction in 2020 that have given critics runway to argue that the movement went too far. It then speaks about Johnny Depp's defamation victory over Amber Heard. It speaks about, obviously, the ongoing Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni saga, and then points to Rogan's takeaway, which is, quote, if this happened in the 80s, it probably would have been thrown out. And it is the reality that over and over again, we are seeing that a lot of these circumstances are about taking businesses, about taking over movies, about trying to get a lot of money from people when they are at their peak in power. And it does need to end. There needs to, in my opinion, be severe consequences for people that bring about lawsuits and are doing it motivated by reasons other than are being expressed to the public, not because they're victims, but perhaps because they want money. And I think that Harvey's lawyer, Arthur Adela, said it correctly when he was asked about this particular case and why it's so important. He said that he's betting that the climate around Metoo is going to play in Harvey Weinstein's favor this time around, or at least not play against him. And he said, quote, people are realizing that the phrase believe women is an anti-American and anti-ends of justice idiotic statement. We shouldn't believe everybody. We should determine, given our common sense, whether they are telling the truth. And I say amen to that. And I also want to button it with this, what I mentioned earlier. You know, I know yesterday we were kind of speaking about a lot of the things that moved me, or people were asking the question, what made you move toward the Catholic faith and decide to be baptized Catholic? And I said, I'm not kind of fully ready to tell that story. But when I look at these circumstances of Shannon Sharpe and Harvey Weinstein and the things that they do have in common in these suits that you hear over and over again, it's broken men. It's men that are breaking things that were whole. It's men that, like Harvey Weinstein, who was betraying his wife and would have never been in the predicament that he is still in, had he not have cheated on his wife. And I remember that one of the books, the actual first book that I read on Catholicism, because my husband was leaving it toward my bedside. But it was a moment for me. It was just one sentence, and it was talking about sin. This is written by Robert Barron, and it was speaking about what sin actually is. And it was getting into the etymology of the word the devil. One sentence, it says, one of the typical biblical names for the devil is ho diabolos, derived from the term diabolin, which means to throw apart. If God is a great gathering force, then sin is a scattering power. Okay, so if when things are holy and things are godly, are things that are being brought together, and when things are intentionally being torn apart and things are scattered, then those things become more sinful. And so when I thought about that, I really, really sat with that for a long time in the context of broken families, everything that we're suddenly trying to break apart, right? Oh no, people don't need to have families. We're talking about ripping babies from their mother's wombs, and every kind of one of these cultural conversations that we're having is always a breakdown. And I think that's why our society has led more and more towards sin, the breakdown of marriages, even now the breakdown of gender. You know, but you don't have to be just a whole gender. You could be binary and you can be floating. I think all of those things lead to more sin. And so while we do need to have a conversation about the court systems and what they're doing and engaging in acts of what I believe are injustice because they pursue social justice, we also need to equally place blame outside of the courtrooms on these men too, and what they could be doing different and how they could lead more lives that are fuller and more whole and therefore less sinful. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. Okay, guys, now reminding you about preborn, as I do on many of these episodes, because we live in this culture that tells women that motherhood is this burden, that choosing life is the end of their freedom, and that couldn't be more of a lie. Preborn is the nation's largest pro-life organization that stands for truth. They believe that women deserve better than abortion, and they prove it every single day through free ultrasounds and compassionate care for up to 2 years after the baby is born. Preborn is helping women see their strength, their value, and their future. And when a woman sees her baby on an ultrasound, she is twice as likely to choose life, not because someone forced her to, but because she saw the truth for herself. This is about empowering women to make informed decisions and showing them that they are not alone. If you'd like to give, you just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. Also reminding you about Pure Talk. Do not get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless. Those deals come with a lot of fine print. Like they require you to sign up for 4 lines, activation fees, many more things they want you to do. At the end of the day, you've probably paid for that free phone 3 times over. There is a better way. Pure Talk, which is my sponsor and my wireless company, has a much better offer. The qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get the brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. This phone has virtually indestructible Gorilla Glass, and it captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you have to do is switch to Pure Talk for just $35 a month. You'll get unlimited talk, text, and 15 gigs of data with mobile hotspot. All of that in America's most dependable 5G network. So go to puretalk.com/Owens to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with a qualifying plan if you switch to Pure Talk. It's wireless by Americans and for Americans. Okay, let's get into some stories. I am going to be deeply upset if I miss this on maternity leave, but Tucker mentioned, so he was interviewing this guy, Kurt Weldon. We're going to talk about him in a second. And he mentioned ahead of that interview that he was working on a 9/11 documentary. And I was like, whoop, the internet is about to melt down. Tucker Carlson plus 9/11. And he sort of, entered by saying, back when it happened, I didn't have any questions, and now more stuff is being revealed, and I have questions. And I know that when I did my 9/11 episode, which you should go watch, the media did not like that one. But yes, of course, anybody that grew up during 9/11 or remembers it as I do, as like an indelible part of their childhood, knows that we were lied to about a lot, okay? We don't just go finding passports like on the ground. I mean, just so many ridiculous lies. I'm not even going to count them. You really do wonder about Tower 7 and how that came down. Remarkably, the only one in history that ever came down like that. Anyways, Tucker was interviewing Kurt Weldon. If you don't know who that is, he used to serve as a Republican member of the House of Representatives from 1987 all the way through to 2007, representing the 7th District of Pennsylvania. And after 20 years in Congress, he was just about to become the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee when everything changed because he publicly questioned the accuracy of the 9/11 report. And now for those of you who know about like the Warren Commission, all of these like commissions and reports that are put together after big events happen, like JFK gets shot, are total shams. And he called it out right away, thinking that actually the state wanted to get to the bottom of 9/11. And then he started realizing, okay, wait a second, why does it seem as though the state is a part of 9/11? And so in retaliation for him questioning the official 9/11 report, the Bush administration sent federal agents to his daughter's house and ended his political career. And he has not stopped fighting all of these years to get the truth out about the 9/11 Commission. So I'm just going to show you one clip of what he said on Tucker's show. Take a listen.
What do you think the core truth of 9/11, September 11th, 2001 is? What?
I don't, at this point in time, I have my own perceptions. I don't have something I can give 100%. I can't swear on, but what I'm seeing bothers me to the core of my body. That 9/11 did not happen because a group of hijackers got control of some planes. First of all, I have confirmed that 2 of the hijackers that were on one of the planes in New York were working for the CIA. They were on the CIA payroll. And that was confirmed to me by someone in writing from one of our agencies, and I have that letter. So 2 of the people involved were actually working for the CIA in one of the planes. I know that. And they lost control of them. And there were reprimands against those agency people after the fact. Second, I know the intelligence, they tried 3 times to transfer the information about information that could have prevented 9/11. That's fact.
To the Justice Department.
And I have the name of the person that at the Justice Department they contacted, and she was told to cancel the meetings. They couldn't have the meetings.
Who did that order come from? Who?
That's what needs to be investigated.
Okay.
And then we have John Crane, the Inspector General of the Pentagon, who went to the extent of issuing a request for whistleblower status because he was told to lie to the Congress and lie about pre-9/11 intelligence and able danger. And then we have General the book by the General and his comments that he knew within seconds. None of this is in the 9/11 Commission report. The 9/11 Commission report is a piece of garbage.
Who could have been behind 9/11? It's a big question. just some things I noticed. All of the people who are the most adamantly opposed to looking into who shot JFK, who was behind the shooting of JFK, are the same ones who are just as adamantly opposed as digging up anything regarding 9/11 that doesn't fit the cookie cutter narrative that we were spoon fed since we were kids. So that's something the same people that seem really fired up about making sure that nobody looks beyond the official commissions and reports or asks any questions about the blackmail and the stuff that we have uncovered over the years, or asks any questions about Tower 7 and its remarkable ability to go down like it was a controlled demolition, or ask any questions about why they locked down images of whatever it is that hit the Pentagon, or ask any questions about Lucky Larry Silverstein and those art students that were visiting Tower 7. Anyways, just some things I've noticed, but I am educated and I know that we are not allowed to ask questions. Asking questions is now banned. It's not okay to ask any questions. We just have to accept the narrative. And the narrative is like, the Saudis hit us on 9/11, and so we went to war with Iraq because they had weapons of mass destruction that were never found, and so we went to war with Afghanistan. And that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I don't think we need to ask any more questions beyond that. Anyways, he also spoke about Gaddafi. I'm one of these episodes I was telling you guys about the Libyan president Gaddafi. Must read his speech before the UN, the speech that definitely got him killed by the West, where he just calls out JFK, the assassination of MLK, starts asking questions about Israel's reactor, and says what everybody knew, that he was standing up to Israel and didn't want them to go nuclear. And the next thing you know, wham, this guy, despite the fact that they were a member nation of the UN, gets murdered in a brutal and a graphic way. And also something else that he did, which is a huge no-no, was he was trying to move Libya and African countries to the gold standard. Everybody knows you mess with the Federal Reserve, you mess with people just being able to print cash, and that's a good way to get yourself killed. But his was very graphic. He was sodomized on camera. It was handed around. Hillary Clinton was like, yippee, this is amazing. Putin watched it and said he'd never trust the West again. But here's Gert Weldon speaking on the truth regarding Muammar Gaddafi.
But you think that the people who are hiding the truth about 9/11 are capable of murder?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess that would be obvious since 3,000 people were murdered that day.
Just like Libya. We were the ones that caused Gaddafi's death because Hillary Clinton played a game over there. And I was the one that went over there during the war. Gaddafi asked me to come over. I took a Biden staffer and a Bush staffer and a film crew leader from ABC One in New York, Larry Menti, with me, and a cameraman, because I didn't want the CIA to set me up. I hand carried the letter back from Gaddafi offering to resign. The U.S. didn't want him to resign. They wanted to kill him.
Why?
Because Gaddafi, and I met him 3 times. I took Biden on my second trip to Libya, by the way. He went with me when I spoke to the whole country. At every meeting I had with Gaddafi, he wanted 2 things. He wanted to unite the African continent into a group of nations economically, like the European economy. He wanted to base it on the gold standard. And the U.S. and Europe didn't want that. And the other thing is they wanted control of his oil, and they wanted control of his sovereign wealth. So Gaddafi had to go. That's outrageous, and it's wrong.
Yeah, but that, I think, sounds right to me.
I mean, but we've allowed so many of our kids to be drawn into conflicts, to be killed. And these people doing this they've never served in any capacity in our country. They've never been in the military. They've never served on a fire ground. And it's outrageous that they think they can get away with this and sit back and make all this money. It's outrageous.
Positively agree with that. It is outrageous. And it's why me and so many others have been so vocal against the obvious. I wish we could just go back and pull every clip of me saying they are going to want to push us into war with Iran for the last 4 years. It's been so obvious. The writing's on the wall. As soon as Bibi Netanyahu says who he wants to go to war with, we got to go to war. And yes, of course, no, his kids are safely in Palm Beach, like enjoying Mar-a-Lago, but your kids are going to have to go fight. And at first they laugh, oh, this is so crazy. And we're just inching ever closer to war with Iran. And it's why they are so obsessed with controlling this narrative of wanting us to believe that Israel is a victim and that we have to go fight this huge war with Iran, which we will not win. And we will suffer because of it, obviously. And people who point that out are just being smeared ruthlessly, but it's not working anymore. And so this kind of easy moral position to have, like women shouldn't be ruthlessly murdered alongside their children, like 18,000 kids being murdered are too many children to be murdered. They try to complicate it. Like this is what the intellectuals in the academic class is constantly trying to complicate it. Like you just don't understand. I was on Twitter the other day and someone was saying, these people argue like they're 5 years old. Yeah, that's a compliment. Like, yeah, toddlers pretty much have a pretty good base understanding of morality. It takes the intellectuals to drive us into the worst situations that we've ever been in all across humanity. Actually, if you read Thomas Sowell, it's one of the things that he points to consistently. Like every disaster of the 20th century was thought up by intellectuals that went to Harvard and Stanford and got fancy degrees like he did. He's like, I went to Harvard so I could laugh at these people who think that they're so smart. And they wave around their degrees and tell you where they went. They've never seen war. They've never seen anything, right? And they just tell you and lecture you about what you need to care about and what you're not allowed to care about. Because what they understand is something that the laymen can't understand. Look how many fancy degrees they have. And so obviously it was a big deal for the Zionist lobby to have the world watch Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray, who I like, by the way. Douglas Murray is not like some of the Zionists that I strongly dislike, but it wasn't a strong showing to question them about whether or not they've been to Israel, as if that would somehow make their arguments more legitimate. I've been to Israel. I can tell you Dave Smith is infinitely more educated on the topic than I am. And that obviously didn't play well. And so pretty much all of Joe Rogan's audience is having their perceptions regarding this debate shaped by that conversation and recognizing that we're somehow now back in COVID expertise territory. Remember when the COVID experts were like, you just know nothing. You shouldn't even be speaking. It's so dangerous. Well, Sam Harris was a part of that syndicate. He called me and told me I was so irresponsible with my platform because I was advising people not to get the vaccine. And how dare I? He went to Stanford. He was telling me that he knew all of these doctors in Italy. He literally told me this on the phone. He knew all of these doctors in Italy and that I needed to understand how these things spread and that there's medical things that I don't understand and that there were going to be gurneys in the street. I remember him saying that to me, gurneys in the street, unless I advised my audience to stay at home, stay indoors, and let their grandmas die by themselves. Like that was pretty much what Sam Harris said to me on the phone. And I hung up the phone with him. I was very polite. And I turned around to my husband and I said, this man is deranged. Literally crazy. But he went to Stanford and his mom like created Golden Girls. So I guess he's smarter than me because like, who am I? I'm a kid from the wrong side of the tracks. I didn't go to Stanford or Harvard. Just a little bit of common sense that like, you know, if you're desperately trying to get me to put something in my arm, I feel like I shouldn't put it in my arm. I don't know. Is that crazy? Like, I just feel it was a little too much, too fast, too hard. And we ended up being proven correct, despite the censorship regime, despite the experts, despite the Harvard and the Stanford classes of the decades coming forward and condemning us for our lack of intellect. We were proven correct, okay? And so now what they're trying to do to Joe Rogan is the same thing that the COVID Nazis tried to do to Joe Rogan when he was like, yeah, I threw the kitchen sink when I got COVID. I threw the kitchen sink at it figuratively. And, you know, I think he said he did IVs. He took ivermectin. And they were like, oh, that's a horse dewormer. That's the craziest thing I ever heard. And he was proven correct, obviously. And so now that same class of people, and I'm referring here to Sam Harris, is basically trying to make it seem, just like as they did with the COVID people, they were like, people who don't get the vaccine, studies show that they're likely sociopaths, right? They're trying to pretend that Joe Rogan just needed an intervention. And they sent Douglas Murray to try to save him from himself by recognizing, like, you got to side with Israel or something. So this is Douglas Murray. I mean, sorry, it's Douglas Murray, but this is Sam Harris speaking to Douglas Murray about the aftermath of his conversation on Joe Rogan with Dave Smith. And Sam Harris is essentially arguing that, you know, Joe Rogan's just like an insane person who just needed an intervention. That's all he needed. And bless Douglas Murray's heart for trying to do that for him. And Sam Harris is, they're going to really hope for Joe Rogan that he comes over to the right side. Take a listen to how pompous and arrogant Sam Harris sounds. It is sickening.
But I want to start with the intervention you attempted to perform on our mutual friend Joe. I hope he's still a mutual friend. That remains to be seen, I guess. But and his sidekick Dave Smith over on the podcast, because I thought what you attempted there was fantastic and much needed. I mean, this was a kind of moral intervention, which I thought was very important to do. I've been attempting my version of it, not directly in dialogue with Joe, but I certainly would do that as well. But it was, I thought what you said was quite brilliant and important, and I think there are probably a few crucial points that were misunderstood.
A moral intervention. That's what you guys need. If you don't understand why your children have to die for Bibi Netanyahu to advance what he's been wanting to advance again in the Middle East, it's because you need a moral intervention. And you need no one other than some rich kid's son who grew up and went to Stanford because of connections to remind you about your moral obligation. Now, you might be thinking, Candace, how about no? How about I'm tired of going to work and having my taxes going overseas? You don't understand. You're not intellectual enough, okay? And actually, you're not even intellectual enough for people like Sam Harris to speak to. So don't disgust me any further by suggesting that he would ever lower himself to speak to somebody like you. But Joe Rogan, they were friends. And it's just a moral intervention that they're trying to stage. Come back to them, Joe Rogan. Come back to Sam Harris. He can show you the error of your ways. Meanwhile, over on Joe Rogan in the aftermath, he had on comedian Tim Dillon, and they were just mocking the absurdity of thinking that people need to go to places, to have been somewhere, to just not be able to see that water is wet. Again, common sense. And yeah, common sense says we shouldn't keep blowing up children and women and pretending that Israel is the victim in this. Here is Tim Dillon on Joe Rogan.
There is an argument to be made that level of devastation and death is worse than you talking to someone on your podcast.
Allegedly.
There is an argument to be made. It's probably not a good one.
The amount
but
of
there
damage
is an
you
argument.
can do with just talking.
There is an argument to be made that, starvation and stuff like that and people dying is worse than a podcast.
But wait a minute.
I wouldn't
wait
make
a minute
it.
before you say that. Have you been there?
Right, that's a good point.
You haven't been?
By the way, how is he in all these wars? Can I just go to wars? By the way, how are you allowed to just go to wars? Is that the way
you should at least
can you just
have the
go to
courtesy of going there.
Can I just go to wars, or do I have to come back and say what people want me to say about the wars? Can I go to the wars and have my own opinions, or do I have to have the opinions?
Not if you want to go back.
That's right. It's very interesting, this war tourism. How do I get on this war tourism?
Yeah.
I'd like to go to the Ukraine.
So while Sam Harris is speaking literally about a moral intervention, obviously Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon are having fun and mocking it because the laymen, us people, we're so uneducated, but we get it, okay? We get what's right and we get what's wrong, and we don't need somebody to write another book trying to convince us that a war that has nothing to do with us and is not going to better our lives is the right thing for us to involve ourselves in because of the experts. And so the Zionists are going nuts online over this clip, freaking out. How dare they laugh? How dare they have a good time? How dare they be relatable? How dare they speak to people like they're not above them? And these are some of these like Zionist tweets. Rogan clutching his pearls. This guy is kosher Cockney. Rogan mocking Douglas Murray. Rogan clearly butthurt that his friend Dave got called out on his bull. The fact that Joe and Dave are still talking about this shows it's hurt their feelings they got called out. Sad to see how low this podcast has sunk. You mean like the number one podcast in the world, Joe Rogan? Okay, cool. I want to sync like that, please. Here's another one. Funny how Dave Smith and Joe Rogan suddenly have so much to say. now that Douglas Murray isn't in the room. Pure cowardice. Okay, so it wasn't pure cowardice when Sam Harris was talking about staging a moral intervention, but like somehow Rogan making a joke, clutch your pearls. It's all ridiculous. It's all so overdone. Cheryl here, judging by this bit by Joe, Douglas Murray achieved what no one before him has managed to do. He finally got Joe Rogan to take off his mask and show us exactly who and what he is. Oh no, the Zio bees are coming for you, Joe. You better duck before you get stung. And then this last guy, Joel Petlin, writes, never traveling to the region that you obsessively comment on is surprising, and it definitely calls your opinions into question. Mocking the person who's actually been there and is able to support his views with firsthand knowledge is a really bad look for Joe Rogan. Well, guys, I'm here to tell you that I've actually been to Israel. So I'm an expert, elevated expert level 1. And I wanted to let you guys know that I agree completely with Dave Smith, and he's infinitely more educated than me on the topic. And I didn't become an expert because I visited the region. No, not at all. Anyways, you guys, moving on from this, I want to remind you about American financing, because with everything that's happening in the economy, it feels like we're all walking on shaky ground. Prices are high. It seems like nothing is affordable anymore. It's no wonder many are relying on credit cards. Credit card debt is absolutely skyrocketing, and it's leaving a lot of people very stressed out. So if you're a homeowner, you should know that you don't have to face this uncertainty alone. My friends at American Financing can help you take control. They can help you access the equity in your home to help you pay down that high interest credit card debt, giving you peace of mind and real savings. On average, people like you are saving $800 a month. Plus, they can close your loan in as little as 10 days. So do not let the chaos of this economy get the best of you. Call American Financing now. It costs you nothing to get started, and you may delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you a cushion in this uncertain time. So call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens, americanfinancing.net/Owens. Also reminding you about 7 Weeks Coffee, because you're probably already drinking coffee, so you might as well do some good while you do it. They are America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement 1 cup of coffee at a time. They're called 7 Weeks because at 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean. And it's the same time that a heartbeat is clearly detected on an ultrasound. That's why they donate 10% of every sale to support pregnancy care centers across the country. They've thus far raised over $800,000 for these centers, and they've saved thousands of lives. And I can tell you the coffee's fantastic, mold-free, pesticide-free, organic, shade-grown, low acid. It checks all the boxes. Right now, when you subscribe to 7 Weeks Coffee, you will get a free 2-pack of their new single-serve brew bags to take your coffee wherever life takes you. So whether you're traveling, working, or adventuring, you can easily enjoy a rich, flavorful cup of coffee by adding hot water and letting the to-go bag steep for a few minutes. So just head to 7weekscoffee.com and you'll save 15% forever if you subscribe. Plus, exclusively for my listeners, use code Candace at checkout and you'll get an extra 10% on your first order. That's a total of 25% savings on your first order. So visit 7 Weeks Coffee. Nope, actually, don't do that. Visit 7weeks.com. No, 7 Weeks Coffee. 7weekscoffee.com and use code Candace today. That's a 7weeks.com. I need to check. Yeah, it's 7 Weeks Coffee. I think that's written wrong on the prompter. 7weekscoffee.com and use code Candace today. All right, you guys, I can't wait to read your comments. We covered a lot here. Let's see what is on your mind. First up, we have got Pineapple Breeze. She writes, thank you. She says something very nice to me. She says, big sis, the Black community never left you. We write here. If anything, they need to check the history from slavery to Jim Crow, and we know civil rights movement definitely does not make up for that. Yeah, I know. Shannon Sharpe, I just don't even understand why he did that. It felt, it's also just like when grown men do it, like 56 years old grown man who like doesn't know how to use his Instagram without getting caught in an act. It's just, I don't know. It was very lame, and it's crappy when people want to like dance on someone's head when they're drowning for no reason. I don't even know what I did to upset him. And still, I say the things that are right in his lawsuit because it's better to be proven right than to be a small person and hope that he gets sued for $50 million just because I don't like him. Tara Alberin writes, Candace, my dad was accused of rape after hooking up with a woman who was caught cheating on her boyfriend, whom my father knew nothing about. At trial, she admitted that she lied. Praise God for the truth. There have been a lot of circumstances of women who have cheated on their boyfriends and then said it was rape because they didn't want to fess up to their boyfriends they had cheated. And yeah, it's very scary. It is especially for me, I'm going to have 3 sons in a couple of days. And just thinking about that environment is why I'm so vocally against the Metoo movement. And of course, you have to raise your sons right. Everyone should find one girl, save yourself until marriage. Just say something, writes Candace, showing her covert feminism from a conservative with the age gap ick. No way the 20-year-old pursued the rich ex-NFL star, right? I mean, she could have definitely pursued him. He may have pursued her. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna go. We'll find out. We'll find out. Maybe I did make an assumption there. But I imagine that he probably hit on her at the gym. You know, the girls wear all the like the tight butt stuff, and butt cheeks are out. Her butt cheeks are $25,000 per butt cheek. I don't know. I don't know what happened at the gym. But what a weird thing for you to totally zero in on. K.O. Osborne writes, please look into the Metoo against Tim Ballard, Operation Underground Railroad. I know Tim. I've done events with Tim. I was a big supporter of Operation Underground Railroad, and I should look into that case. You're right. Savi Sassy writes, I was there, sophomore in college, saw it all, and the plane I saw, she's referring to 9/11, was black with gold lining. People never believe me, so I stopped talking about it. But there is footage of my roommates and I watching it all. I was there. Very interesting. I've actually never heard anything about a plane with black and gold lining. Crystal Coe writes, have you considered that the Carmelo Anthony situation was a paid operation by possibly the Democrat Party to create division? There are a lot of people that would spend a few years in jail for a few $1 million. I definitely don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that they're way too young. And this is a circumstance of high schoolers got into a fight and it went too far. We live in an increasingly violent society. All of that kind of going back to this, the breakdown of families that are apart, and the societies that we have fostered by breaking down the normal union that's supposed to be between a man and a woman. You come together in marriage. You know, marriage is a sacrament for a reason, but I won't get on to a theological rant towards you guys today. Michael writes, any comment on Mahmoud Khalil not allowed to see his baby being born? Yeah, you guys know where I stand on that. I think that this was political persecution and that it's still going on all across the United States under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism. I am not happy that it is happening under Trump, as someone who voted for him and has stood by him and all of the people who came for him and came for his speech and the many things that the media did to him. It sucks. I think he's surrounded by way too many people that are Israel first and not America first. And I think according to the IRHA definition of anti-Semitism, I just engaged in the worst kind of anti-Semitism, because that is under their new definition. To say on campus and accuse someone of being Israel first as opposed to being America first, you can get expelled. So there goes my chances of going to Harvard. You had to ask that question, and now I am going to be expelled. Anyways, guys, reminding you that we have a book club because we missed the week that I was sick. We're going to make up for it this Friday. We're reading Hollywood Babylon. We have thus far just cracked open the book, so it's not too late for you to order the book and jump into this one. It is wild. Like I said, crazy to learn about how Hollywood was actually founded, the gangsters that were behind it. We forget these things. There is no reason to believe that Hollywood is not still being operated by gangs. When you think about everything that is happening and the multiple artists that have spoken out and accused themselves of have said, we are victims of a gang, of the publishing gangs, taking stuff. I see no evidence that the gangs have ever ceased. So definitely think about joining the book club ahead of Friday, but it'll be at Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Of course, you guys can just support our show by buying some merch, CandaceOwens.com. We've got our Make Him a Sandwich line, our anti-feminist line, which people are absolutely loving, which I so appreciate. It's still up. Other than that, you guys, we will see you tomorrow.